Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and I'm joined by an all-star group here to join us for the dedication of not only a recreational facility, but a remembrance of an important part of history that's been lost over the years that we're reclaiming today with this ceremony. We're joined here, and in a few minutes we'll be hearing from our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. We hope to have the pleasure of our Westchester County Board of Legislators Chairman Vedat Gashi. We have our Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, Kathy O'Connor, Victoria Tipp, who's the Newcastle Town Supervisor, and most especially Althema Goodson, who's the co-founder of the Dr. George W. Hill Legacy Center and the committee coordinator who is going to be giving us much of the history of what we have here at this historic location. We're also joined in our group here by a number of other very prominent people. I'd like to recognize the Ossining Town Supervisor, Liz Feldman, who is with us. Madam Supervisor, thank you for being here. I want to recognize my good friend, former State Assemblywoman, Sandy Galiff. Sandy, thank you. We're joined as well by our Deputy Commissioner from the Department of Environmental Facilities, but we knew him much better as a former chairman of the Board of Legislators, representative in this area, Michael Kaplowitz. We have with us representing Assemblyman Chris Burdick, Heather Lackey, who's here as well. We have with us representation from the Office of Congressman Mike Lawler, and we appreciate the Congressman and his team's presence here as well. We also have the Supervisor from Yorktown, Ed Lachterman. I believe I saw Ed here as well. So, Ed, there we are, Ed, right in front of me. Thank you for being with us today. If there are some other people that we need to recognize, we'll make sure we do that as we intersperse our time here. We're here just after Black History Month, but understanding that history is a continuing river that flows. And while this may be Women's History Month and Irish Heritage Month, all of the different elements of the Westchester mosaic are always in play at all times. And what we're doing here today is to pay homage to a portion of our history that frankly has been forgotten. And it's not distant history as in the Revolutionary War. We're going back less than 100 years to something that happened that was very profound at this location. People who were people of success stepped forward to create something that there are hundreds of in this county, and that is a private golf club for the enjoyment of their members. But at the time that they chose to do it, they were making a bold step for equality long before we had more prominent elements in our society in the 1950s, the 1960s. It was a much more difficult climate to operate in 1930s. And when Althema Goodson comes to the microphone, she will give us the full history of it. But even though none of us were here at that time, we understand that this is something we have to celebrate. And we have to join in with those people of yesteryear to show respect for the great sacrifice and step forward they make, and to show that what they did that day is not forgotten all of these years later. And that's why we're here at our Hudson Hills Golf Course for this celebration. I have the pleasure of introducing a number of speakers, and when we're finished, we're going to go over to the rock behind me and do the actual unveiling of the monument that will recognize in perpetuity what was accomplished at this very site all those years ago. First up, I'd like to invite our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins.
Thanks, George. This is certainly a wonderful day, and as the county executive was pointing out and connecting it through the history, the first thing is talking about the history of golf. And certainly that is connected to our Irish heritage and Irish American heritage, and certainly the Scots that came here. Being a guy from a little hamlet called Yonkers, in Yonkers, we know how in America that golf started in America, and it started in Yonkers and Lake Avenue at the St. Andrews Golf Club, which is the oldest golf club in America. And that was in the 1800s. So 1888, in February 1888, a couple of guys got together, some Scottish-born people, and came back from home and had some clubs, just like some gentlemen have right now, and started that on Lake Avenue, and then eventually it turned into St. Andrews Golf Club of Yonkers, and now it is known as St. Andrews Golf Club, period, and it's actually in Hastings now, right? Shout out to Ellen Hendricks in Hastings. So certainly in the Westchester Historian, which is the quarterly magazine from the Westchester County Historical Society, in winter of 2022, did a detailed story about African American golf and the Rising Sun Golf Club here in Westchester. And it was a tremendous education for me personally, but also for all of our Westchester historians to understand the work that was done and the tremendous challenges that happened to build this together in 1936. So in 1936, the Mount Vernon Argus and both the county executive and I had that wonderful experience of delivering for the Daily Argus at a point in time. But Mount Vernon Argus reported in November 1936 that the residents of Newcastle were protesting against the sale of the Pines Bridge Country Club to a Negro corporation. I'm quoting here. So a Negro corporation which plans to develop it as the Rising Sun Golf Club with Negro membership. And they were told by the town supervisor at that time, Robert B. Stewart, that there was legally nothing the town could do to stop the movement forward of the Rising Sun Golf Club to be able to be sold as that organization. So the Rising Sun Golf Club and Country Club is the first African-American owned and operated 18-hole golf course in America. So again, the history that we have here at this golf club now, which has changed names several different times and going through different times. When I first was aware of it was more when it was IBM and Hudson Hills. And we can hear some more stories in the history about IBM's purchase, and they were going to do a research facility, and that didn't happen, but they kept it as a golf club and updated it. This is the sixth county-owned golf club, and it is certainly a privilege for all of us here to get that history and understand the connection and to understand the great history and tapestry of our African-American community here in Westchester County and how that connection happened here in Westchester, first one in the United States. With that, I'm going to turn back over to the county executive. I'm so proud to be here today with all of you and all of the family that's here together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken Jenkins. And for the record, Ken plays golf. I do not. Next up is our Parks, Recreation, Conservation Commissioner, Kathy O'Connor. This is under her kingdom or queendom of facilities, of which we have 55 across the county, 6 golf courses, 6 nature centers, 5 pools, and a partridge in a pear tree. And she and Peter Tartaglia, who's here as the first deputy commissioner, and many members of the parks team that's with us here, do a brilliant job of balancing all of these things together, the day-to-day management of it. Kathy O'Connor.
Thank you very much, County Executive Latimer. I want you to notice that I did turn the wind off while I speak. You're welcome. As the county executive mentioned, we have 51 facilities that we operate, that we own and operate in Westchester County, Parks, Recreation, Conservation. 6 of those facilities are our beautiful golf courses. I'm probably the only commissioner, the only parks commissioner that really doesn't play, but I do enjoy getting in a golf cart and going in the back 40 somewhere. And I love the smell, I love the look, and I love the feel of it. Here at Hudson Hills, this is our youngest golf course. It was built in 2004. And it's such a beautiful spot. This is one of the highest spots in Westchester County, which is obviously why we've had the wind all during the morning. But I'd like to really give a tremendous applause to our superintendent of this golf course, Mr. Joe Rafferty. He does a beautiful job. The greenskeeper is Grover Alexander, and anybody that plays golf realizes it isn't just cutting grass or watering the grass. There's a huge educational piece, environmental piece. We are governed by strict rules of pesticides, etc., what we're allowed to use and not use, and day after day, and we also are under the wonderful experience of dealing with weather. And today is the opening day of golf, and we do have golfers playing at our other 5 courses, so they're hardy souls. But we're very excited, and we're very really honored by the fact that the Rising Sun scenario has come to fruition, and we are so proud to have this as part of our heritage, and we really look forward to more events like this. We love the fact that there will be a plaque, which is behind us, and I'm really, really very proud of being the commissioner during something like this. I also would like to just say a very big thank you to our director of golf, Mr. Rich Belize. He is also an excellent golfer, But the 6 courses are under his purview now, and we really look forward to a wonderful season. We open today, and we actually go right until the end of December. We're only closed about 4 or 5 weeks, but that's because of the need. And we have wonderful experiences with our golfers, and we really appreciate the Parks Department and all the staff that keep everything green, clean, and growing. And finally, I'd like to just say thank you to our county executive, George Latimer, and our deputy county executive, Mr. Ken Jenkins. I've worked for the county department for a long time. They are by far the most supportive of our department, and it has made such a difference. Thank you. We couldn't do what we do without your support. So thank you very much, George. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy O'Connor, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. We're also joined by another commissioner, a commissioner of our Department of Social Services, Leonard Towns. Leonard, thank you for being with us today. And I also note in the crowd we have a couple of former elected officials who have served very well. A former councilman from Yorktown, Vishnu Patel, is with us. And former councilman from Ossining, Michael O'Connor, is with us. Thank you both for being here today. Oh, of course, I'm sorry. And Dana is not former yet, is she? No. A current member of the council. Thank you. Dana White from Ossining. Thank you. This is what happens when you wing it. No matter how many you know, you miss somebody. Sorry, Dana. Thank you for being with us today. Next up, I'm going to invite the supervisor of the town of Newcastle, where we are in the jurisdiction. But by her side, I would like to invite both Liz Feldman and Ed Lachterman to stand on either side of her while she speaks. If you went to my side of the county, where I happen to live right next to Playland, you would be quite confused by what is the city of Rye, what is the village of Rye Brook, what is the town of Rye, and what is the village of Mamaroneck and the town of Mamaroneck and the section of Mamaroneck known as Rye Neck, which is actually in the town of Rye. You would need a doctorate in municipal government to figure that out. We are in an area where the zip code tells you one thing, the dotted line of the jurisdiction tells you something else, and somewhere in here is Yorktown, somewhere in here is Newcastle, Ossining, and Cortland. We don't know, they know, but Victoria Tipp is going to speak, and I'd invite Ed and Liz to come up. It makes for a good photo op.
Oh, I am so glad to be joined by the two of you. Thank you. I want to thank first of all, welcome to the town of Newcastle on behalf of our town government. I want to thank County Executive George Latimer and Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins for recognizing the Rising Sun Golf and Country Club. It is an historic establishment of significant importance to Black history as the first Black-owned golf and country club in the country. In my bit of research, as you well know, the purpose of a golf and country club is pretty typical and mundane. The purpose was for the operation of a golf club and other athletic amenities such as polo fields, squash courts, and swimming pools, and to promote friendship, social and intellectual advancement, and a sense of loyalty to community, and the conception of Americanism. That's a pretty old way of talking, but pretty broad goals. And to hold meetings and gatherings for these purposes. In particular, this holds a role in the history of the town of Newcastle, and to me specifically. I am the first Black elected town supervisor of Newcastle, and this is a particularly momentous event for me, and particularly fortuitous that this should be the time of recognition of this historic club in my town. In order to not repeat history, it's important to never forget it. And of course, we know that history doesn't repeat itself in exactly the same way, but we must take the lessons from the past as we look to the present and the future. So the media introduction to the opening of this golf club was entitled, "Sale of Golf Club to Negroes Arouses Neighbors." Another article was entitled, "Whites Fight Swanky Golf Club." Protests were organized by neighbors, and there were threats of serious hostilities. Some of the quotes were said by some of the townspeople. The townspeople are determined that this project will never get underway. And some said, after the town board told them they could do nothing to stop it, some said, "We'll take care of it." In December 1936, indeed, the town of Newcastle told the protesters that their arguments against the club had no legal grounds. In December 6th of 1936, the first gathering was found by the Newcastle police, and I quote, to be exceptionally orderly. The former club manager stated he had never seen such a dignified gathering. In December 10th, 1936, Newcastle residents had a secret meeting with the Klan May Rise Again speaker, supported by one town council member. December 18th, 1936, Congressman Woodson Oglesby expressed support for the club and its members. That's just a little bit of the history and a little bit of insight into the specifics of what were going on. The club had great successes and difficulties, both social and economics, based on the fact that it was during the Great Depression. And obviously the social challenges were immense. But the Rising Sun Golf and Country Club stood and stands as a testament to the resilience, strength, and courage of the Black community in the face of great adversity. And it's a reminder of the continuing struggle for equality and opportunity. And it's imperative that we honor and remember this history and ensure that the stories of perseverance and courage continue to reverberate for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor, and to our, excuse me, and to our fellow municipal officials who are all here as part of this event. I'd like to call on Althema Goodson now to give us a bit of the history, excuse me, give us a bit of the history that relates to this site and what happened. We heard a little bit of it from Supervisor Tip. 1936, late 1936 was the period of time where we were still dealing with the Depression. Franklin Roosevelt was president, just had a large victory in November of 1936. 1936 is not that distant for some of us. I was born in 1953, so we're talking about a period of time that was slightly less than 20 years before my birth. Hitler was organizing Germany in 1936 to become the power that it became, and the winds of war were just a few years away in the world. And in 1936, we had to deal with issues in our own country about economic deprivation, but we were still a country that was divided on race. In many ways, we are today as well. But Althema will help put all of this into perspective. Althema Goodson.
Thank you, County Executive. I will read the history as researched by Ms. Joyce Sherrod Cole, our Ossining Village historian, who I'm filling in for today. In 1936, as the country went deeper into Great Depression, a prominent group of Black men, primarily from Westchester County, embarked on an ambitious venture to create a golf and country club. On October 18, 1936, John W. Tate of Pelham, New York, William E. Onley of Yonkers, New York, Charles H. Shelton of Pelham, New York, William B. Brown of Pelham, New York, George H. Wilson of Yonkers, New York, James H. Byrd of New York City, Paul H. Bray of Yonkers, New York, Avis B. Fields of New York City, and Mr. Henry Nelson of Greenwich, Connecticut, filed to incorporate the Rising Sun Golf and Country Club, a membership incorporation. The purpose for which it was formed was to conduct, operate, and maintain a golf club, to develop and maintain the necessary buildings and facilities for the sport and recreation of its members, to promote friendship and stimulate an interest in the health and physical development and its social and intellectual advancement of its members, and to inculcate in them a high sense of loyalty to each other and the highest ideals and concepts of Americanism, and to hold meetings and social gatherings for the better realization of the above primary purposes. At its inception, there were 300 share buyers from Yonkers, New Rochelle, White Plains, Pelham, Mount Vernon, Rye, Ossining, Brooklyn, and New York City. James Edgar Allen served as the first president. He was an African-American educator and writer, the first president of the New York chapter of the NAACP, a member of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and the Johnson C. Smith Alumni Association. He was also the author of The Negro in New York, Black History Past and Present, and The Legend of Arthur A. Stromberg. Paul H. Bray was the treasurer. He was a well-known activist here in Westchester County. The former president of the New Rochelle NAACP was instrumental in starting the Country Club. He was a founding member of the Westchester County Negro Republican League. He founded the Palisade Publishing Company, which published the Yonkers Standard, where he also served as editor. Jimmy DeVoe, the professional golfer, was one of 3 recognized Black pros of his time. He was the first African American to gain PGA of American membership after the PGA rescinded its Caucasian-only clause in 1962. This club was destined for greatness. Upon notice of the sale, they faced instant and extreme opposition. The surrounding community held meetings conspiring to stop the sale, employed scare tactics such as the threat to send the KKK. They filed several lawsuits against them, defamed their characters in local newspapers, and finally they were forced into bankruptcy in 1938. Another Black investment group opened under the name Beaumont Golf and Country Club, but met the same fate as their predecessors, and the club was lost in 1939. Despite extreme and constant racism and discriminatory acts, the group ran the course successfully for a season, hosting many elegant tournaments. County Executive, we want to thank you for acknowledging these visionaries for their tireless efforts to improve and elevate the conditions of the Black experience in Westchester County. Ms. Sherrod Cole has been teaching the history of the rising sun to the Ossining community since 2019, and she is proud today that the county will permanently memorialize the legacy of this significant venture. She thanks you for your continued efforts to ensure that all of our contributions to the history of this great county are recorded and recognized. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Althema. In a second now, we're going to go over for the actual unveiling, and as we start to see a little rain on this windswept day, it is probably an appropriate environment for us to just look around and see what we see in the perimeter of our view all around. Just take a look around. You will see a handful of signs of things that mankind has created. The clubhouse, the tower, some of these structures here, but most of what you see are what God created. The land, the mountains in the distance, the trees in the sky. And what it reminds me as I'm standing here is there are things that are ephemeral and there are things that are eternal. Most of what is ephemeral is what we create, and most of what eternal is what He has created. And as we stand here today, I think about a thought I had once when I was at a cemetery, when I saw row upon row of tombstones. And I said, this must be the way God looks at us humans on the planet. When you look at a tombstone, that's stone, it's not a tombstone. When you look at a stone, you can't tell if the person that's being memorialized under that stone is white or black, or Hispanic or Asian or Native American. You can't tell if that person was male or female. You can't tell if that person died young or died old unless you read something about them. You don't know who was tall or short, skinny or fat. What you do know is that a human being existed, a soul, an eternal soul. That's a little theological, but an individual existed. And these men, whose names we've just read, are long gone. And the people that hated them are long gone. But the hate isn't gone. And so therefore, we have to make sure we keep their memories alive. These were men who were successful enough to be able to play a round of golf. And this is a sport that's often considered to be the sport of those who are the most successful in society. I grew up on the south side of Mount Vernon, small house, apartment building before that. Not a lot of golf players in my neighborhood, white or black. But the reality of it is those men could not join the Westchester Country Club. They could not join the existing country clubs of their day. The only thing they could do was create their own club. And they had the resources to do that. And even then, in that day, there were people that did not want them to have that. That's ephemeral. What's eternal are the principles of equality and fairness. That's what we celebrate today. White men and women, black men and women, Asian men and women. Latino men and women, Native American men and women. We celebrate that we are still all equal people with equal rights, and we have to strive to get to the day where we respect that in everybody else. Let us dedicate this now.